Good morning, everyone. And I say good morning specifically because I want to emphasize at the outset of this video that I am filming it on Saturday morning. I have an interview in about an hour, so I have about an hour to kill before then. So I'm filming this on Saturday morning before I even had my cup of coffee. Look, my cup of coffee, this giant mug of coffee. I should have had my Louder with Crowder mug wash, but I didn't. It's very full. This will be my first sip of coffee of the day. And I think that's important in the context of this video, because I am about to do a reaction video to this video, Why Everyone's Pretending to Be Mad About Critical Race Theory from Thought Slime. Now, I have no idea who this guy is. I have absolutely no idea. You guys know I don't really actually watch YouTube in my free time like a lot of you do. I have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea what's in this video, but a lot of people told me about this video and said, Carlin, you should do a reaction video to it. So, fine. Fine. This is gonna be the first thing I do on Saturday morning while I'm drinking my coffee is to do a reaction video to this guy. What could possibly go wrong with this plan, alright? I've got pumpkin spice creamer too, just for all you pumpkin spice haters. Alright, so let's dig into it. I have absolutely no idea what I'm gonna find. Let's go.
Hello, I'm White Dude, once again talking about race, and I'm here today.
I'm White Dude, once again talking about race, though nothing is gonna go wrong with this plan at all. Nothing, okay.
To screw up talking about critical race theory, and why it has become the latest in an endless series of dog whistles by right-wingers.
Okay. Critical race theory is not a dog whistle by right-wingers. Critical race theory is something that could very well lead to the downfall of this country. And I say that as a white girl. I understand I'm white. I understand I have the sin of being white. And therefore, according to Robin DiAngelo and all these other people, and probably this white dude too, I am therefore a racist. Although he's probably not going to acknowledge that, in the little critical race theory hierarchy of oppression, I actually outrank him. I do. So we're going to see. Let's see.
To pretend they have some legitimate reason not to care about minorities in general, or black people specifically.
I adore minorities. I adore black people specifically. I just think that we should be listening to the full breadth of opinions from minorities and black people. And you don't want to do that. Listen, man, I do walkaway rallies every single weekend with Shamika Michelle. Shamika Michelle is I'm not going to swear. I'm trying a black woman. She is awesome. She is one of the most powerful people I've ever met in my life. And she is about, I guarantee you, I feel like I know Shamika well enough to say this, that she's going to disagree with most of what this guy has to say. And she would not be quiet about it. So I just wish that people who would do stuff like this would listen to the full breadth of opinion from the people that they are claiming to be allies for.
I don't know what queen or central cortex node instructs the conservative hive mind to adopt the talking points they do. I don't know how or why certain topics become the new hot button issues.
Then maybe if you don't understand how these things happen, then perhaps you should talk to conservatives. And I want to say, for anyone who might be new to me, I'm not a conservative. I'm absolutely not. If you look at my political compass test, I am about as centrist as a person can be with libertarian leanings. That is where I am. I'm right in the center. I lean slightly left, like just slightly left, but more libertarian than anyone else. I'm not a conservative. Even conservatives will say, Carlin, we know you're not a conservative. But this guy, of course, would probably lump me and everyone else right in together.
But I know that critical race theory has become the latest boogeyman in right-wing spheres. Here's Christopher Rufo on Tucker Carlson's Daily Squinting video talking about how critical race theory is an existential threat to the United States.
Chris Rufo is a hero. Chris Rufo, I have so much respect for that guy. Chris Rufo is an absolute hero. When the history books are written about this time period, Chris Rufo is going to be the guy that brought down critical race theory and its impact on this country, and I have so much respect for him.
It's absolutely astonishing how critical race theory has pervaded every institution in the federal government. And what I've discovered is that critical race theory has become, in essence, the default ideology of the federal bureaucracy and is now being weaponized against the American people. But conservatives need to wake up that this is an existential threat to the United States.
Well, okay, I'm going to take one point with Chris there. Everyone needs to wake up that this is an existential threat to the United States. This is not a conservative issue. Guys, this is not a conservative issue. I am not a conservative, and I care deeply about this. Critical race theory is harmful to individuals. It is harmful to organizations. It is not about fairness. It is not about justice. It is not about diversity. It is not about inclusion. It is not about creating a more equal society. That is not the basis of what this freaking mind virus is. It is about power. That is what it is about. It is about power first and foremost. Who has power, who doesn't, and how can we get the people that we like into power? That is what this is about.
And the bureaucracy, even under the Trump administration, is now being weaponized against core traditional American values. And I call on the president to immediately issue this executive order and stamp out this destructive, divisive, pseudoscientific ideology at its root.
Yeah, I don't even care what this guy has to say. Chris Rufo is awesome. He is an American hero, guys. And by the way, I have interviewed Chris on this channel, so go find the interview. Oh God, I just can't say enough. I'm like, I don't fangirl over many people, but if I'm fangirling over someone right now, it's totally Chris Rufo.
You might be overstating your case there, Chris.
No, not overstating his case. And who wants to bet that this guy has absolutely no evidence to back up that Chris Rufo is overstating his case?
Maybe you laid it on a little thick. And a finger curled on the monkey's paw when President Trump, who for those of you who don't know, is President of America, announced he would sign an executive order to bring back patriotic education.
Well, yeah, that's true, but that's okay. But let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. I don't have any comment on this shit.
Nothing worrying about that.
Oh my God. So, okay. So here's the thing that you need to understand about this. Critical race theory has now been ingrained in the schools from the time these kids are very, very young. I have a video just the other day on this channel of a high school curriculum teaching people that the government is just out to oppress minorities and that the traditional family is just judgmental, like whatever, for anyone who isn't white and male, and that only white people can be racist. This is in the school system. And what this is fundamentally teaching is that America is a racist country. That is what they are teaching in the school system. So yes, I absolutely want to bring back education that teaches about the bravery of the founding of this country. There are so many amazing stories around the founding of the country, the Revolutionary War, even up to the Civil War. And yes, the Civil War was a triumph for this country. Come on, man. Like that was one of the defining moments of this country. And guess what? We came out on the right side of history. Was everything perfect? No. But the kids in this country should have an education in schools that teaches them about why America is the greatest country in the world. And that's not like propaganda. That's a simple statement of fact. We are the greatest, freest country in the history of the world where there is the most opportunity. And yes, kids in school should learn that. That is only going to benefit them. If people can see opportunity right in front of their faces, if they see, oh my God, in America, I can do whatever I want, that is only going to benefit them. Listen, I am married to an immigrant. I hear all the time about the opportunities he would not have had in his country, but he has here in America as an immigrant. And the kids growing up here should learn how lucky and, yes, privileged they are to live here.
By getting rid of critical race theory and propaganda like the work of Howard Zinn. By the way, people are always asking me for more to read, and if you're in the States, you should probably read Zinn's A People's History of the United States.
Yeah, only every college student in the history of college student has read People's History of the United States. Yes, I've read People's History of the United States. And you know what? Listen, there is nothing wrong with looking at circumstances from different perspectives. I actually, you know what? Yes, I would encourage you. If you are, I know I have a lot of conservatives watching this channel. If you've never read A People's History of the United States, go read A People's History of the United States because it presents a different perspective, and it is important to understand different perspectives. It is the same reason that I torture myself and I read things like White Fragility and In Defense of Looting and How to Be an Anti-Racist, because even though I do not subscribe to their thought processes at all, it is important to understand the perspective that these people have. And I I would stand to bet right now that I'm actually more read up on the critical race theory nonsense than the dude making this video. Let's keep going.
United States, that gets the Thought Slime quality seal of good reading book. To me, this
Dude, if you're going to give a quality seal of good reading book, you might want to actually practice like something resembling proper grammar. I'm sure you're doing it in an ironic way, but it's not cute and it's not funny.
situation illustrates the adage, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. I tried to look up who wrote that. Turns out, people don't know. I want you to keep that in mind as I move forward in this video. Do you think that they're looking at these ideas as presented and finding genuine fault with them?
Yes. I think that I have done a very good job of looking at these ideas as presented and finding fault with them. In fact, dude, like I don't like debates. You guys know I think that debates are stupid, but I've already seen enough of this video to know that I will absolutely debate this guy on critical race theory on the merits, on facts and data, because guess what? They don't have data on their side.
Or are they perhaps inventing strawman versions of CRT to avoid truths that make them uncomfortable with their...
You want to present any evidence of inventing strawman arguments for CRT? You want to present evidence? Do you have any evidence? I'm going to guess he doesn't have evidence. Do you want to see if he has evidence? I'm going to guess he doesn't have evidence.
...place in the world? Or perhaps pose some sort of financial risk to them? That's what I'd like you to do, but you're not gonna. No matter which side of the question you land on, you're locked in. You're already leaving your comment. I'm just...
See, and this is an example of how these people always project, because he's like, do you have data? Do you have data? Do you have evidence? Does he present any evidence? No, because he doesn't have it. There is no evidence to show that critical race theory actually works. In fact, the only evidence we have shows exactly the opposite.
Yelling into the yawning void where our curiosity used to be.
Is it just me, or does this guy look at his eyes. Doesn't he look dead inside? I'm just saying.
I'm going to try
Dead inside, yes.
to explain what critical race theory is to the best of my ability, but keep in mind, I'm a layperson who's going to do most of my research on Wikipedia and YouTube videos.
No, I did my research by actually reading the critical race theory books. If you didn't take the time to read the critical race theory books, that is your problem.
Normally, I'd try to be a little more thorough, but it doesn't actually matter for our purposes what critical race theory is, but rather what people are pretending it is. And that sucks. It sucks that this discussion will take this turn, because there's really...
This is literally your video. You can make a video presenting whatever argument you want, and this is the argument that you're making, that, oh, I just can't be bothered because no one else reads anything but Wikipedia, when of course, like, again, I've read the dang books. Why haven't you? I mean, come on.
Nothing about critical race theory that warrants the vitriolic reaction it gets. It's a series of normal, and in most cases, very...
If I ever do debate this guy, he gets to call me Dr. Borisenko. That's all.
common sense ideas to explain the dynamics of racism without relying on lazy answers like, I don't know, some people are just bad. Or like,
No, wrong. If you have ever visited James Lindsay's website, New Discourses, and you came away with the only thing that website says is, I don't know, some people are bad, like, that is just... Come on, dude. Do better. Be better, Thought Slime. I mean, I don't know why I'm expecting someone with the name of Thought Slime to be better, but fine. Like, whatever.
Like, everyone just naturally hates people who...
Can I just make a comment? If you guys are going to use stock images, like, what is this? What is this? Buy the freaking image if you're going to use it in your video to take the watermark off it. Be better than this, guys. I use stock images in some of my videos, and I don't use them in my videos, but my thumbnails, and I buy the stock images so as not to have stupid watermark on it.
We're different. Ideas that are just like, hey, racism's gonna happen, what are you gonna do about it? The people who teach it will now...
That's not actually why we're against it at all.
...forever have to contend with dishonest hacks, shouting over them to pretend as though they're claiming some shit like white people are evil or whatever. So the very...
That is literally what the text says. White fragility literally says, Robin DiAngelo says, I have been racist since the womb. And I know I say that line a lot because it is just the absolute perfect line to throw back at people like this who say, oh, critical race theory doesn't say that all white people are racist. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That is literally what the book says. Why have I read the book and you have not read the book?
At least I can do is be a dishonest hack that defends them. Let's go super bare bones here. Critical theory is a philosophy or method of analyzing things that views the ways that social structures and power dynamics influence social problems.
Power dynamics. Exactly. Told you.
More than individual beliefs or actions. Critical race theory is that method applied to race and racism. In this view, racism is not simply a product of individual bad actors, but is also reproduced, unconsciously, in systems and institutions. Racism is baked into how we do things in ways that we may not realize and may not even intend. I'll give you...
Okay, so if this is true, and I'm actually willing to offer that I think an argument could be made for systemic racism. I do. I know a lot of people disagree with me, whatever. I think an argument can be made for it. However, if we are starting with the foundational premise that racism is baked into literally every single thing that we do, then what is the solution to it? The only solution that people like this have to offer is literally burning everything down. This is why you see them burning down buildings in the riots. They literally want to tear everything down and remake it again to root out the systemic racism that exists in everything. That's not going to work, man. Come to me with a viable solution other than we have to redo everything we've been doing for the past 250 years because it now makes white allies uncomfortable. White allies, by the way, that usually come from really privileged, rich families and feel guilty about being rich and white. Like, because it makes you uncomfortable, we have to tear down everything in this country? No, I don't think so.
I'll give you an example. Eurocentrism in history education. That's when you focus on Europe or the descendants of people from Europe in history and kind of ignore the rest of the world, where things also happen.
You know, I took this class in high school called World History. World History. World History. We studied the world. We also studied U.S. history, which is the study of the U.S. There's also other options you can take if you wanted to study different things. When you go to college, guess what? When you go to college, you can take the history of whatever the flip you want. These programs are available if you want to study them.
An educator may not set out to center European history, but the tools and information available to them might treat that as the norm. Regardless of intent, this results in the history of people from other...
If you are taking a class called U.S. history, yes, most of the history you are going to study is going to be it's going to be based on the founding and the history of the country. That's going to be mostly European history. That's just the way it is, dude.
Other continents being neglected, thereby...
Then go take world history.
By presenting their story as less important than that of whitos like myself and less worthy of study.
It's not less worthy of study, but go make the choice to take the flipping class. How many, I would love to know how many classes this guy has taken that are about like African history or, I don't know, Chinese history or like whatever. How many, I want to see this guy's college transcripts. How many classes has he taken that are not like freaking European or US related?
That's all it is. Well, okay, obviously that's not all. I'm not going to do like a semester's worth of critical race theory education in this YouTube video. Obviously, it's more complicated than that in a lot of ways that I'm particularly ill-equipped to discuss. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have the education, life experience, or just natural brain smarts to do the subject any justice.
Then why are you making a video about it?
But if you just want a simple answer to the question, what is critical race theory? It's that. It's that thing I said. If you're looking for an answer to the question, how come everyone's mad about it? Stay tuned. Now, it doesn't sound controversial to suggest that institutions and, like, society-wide trends can have a meaningful impact on your lived experience. But there are a few reasons that it is. The first is, obviously...
How much you want to bet he's going to bring up unpacking the invisible knapsack in this video, and that's probably the only thing that he's actually read.
Let's get this out of the way. Some people like racism. This is a thought slime.
This is the thing. This is why conservatives stop having conversations with these people, because they just throw out these blanket statements like, well, you must just like racism. No one likes racism, dude. No one likes racism.
Video, so you know I have to call something racist. That's the whole trademark thing that I do in every video. So just to tide you over for now, okay, like when a medieval king or knight eats a big turkey leg, that's racist. That's racist now.
it would actually be considered racist because if you looked at that race of the king, he was white and therefore everything he does is racist. That is the basis of critical race theory, dude! That is the basis of it. Yes, that is absolutely true. You could absolutely use critical race theory to make the argument that that dude was a racist.
Kings and knights are canceled. Anyway, some people like racism.
Kings are actually, no, that's actually true. You want to look at like freaking landlords? Landlords have been canceled by critical race theory. Anyone in any system of power, kings and knights would absolutely be canceled based on critical race theory.
Consciously or unconsciously. And they think racism is very good. So when you're like, hey, let's do something about all the racism, they're like, nah.
No. Wrong.
Racism is tight. Let's not. By no means is this the majority of people, or the majority of people that are opposed to critical race theory, but obviously they exist. Let's just get out of the way. Moving on. The second reason is because critical theory was first developed by the Stinko Pinkos at the Frankfurt School. Hearing that something was created by a bunch of Marxists is enough to get a significant portion of people to reflexively assume it's designed to take away your freedom.
Because that's what it's designed to do. Critical race theory is about power, you moron! This is why I don't do reaction videos. Like, this is why. Like, you're seeing it right here. This has nothing to do with me even not having my coffee yet. This is like, what? This makes me angry. Like, the people are listening to this crap on the internet, and like, come on, man. Like, I'm not one to cancel people that have stupid ideas, because people are allowed to have stupid ideas, but this stuff pisses me off.
And make guns, soda, and the Bible illegal somehow. Like, if we admit that systems and institutions can be racist, that means nobody can believe in God anymore. The third...
What are you even talking about, dude? What are you even talking about? Critical race... Most of the people who subscribe to critical race theory are not active practitioners of any religious or spiritual practice. Why? Because critical race theory gives them the purpose and direction for their lives. It is a mind virus that takes over absolutely anything. And yes, I absolutely believe that you are more susceptible to this nonsense. And I say this as someone who is not a Christian, that you are absolutely more susceptible if you do not have religion, spirituality, or some greater sense of purpose in your life. You are more susceptible to be sucked into critical race theory. Yes.
Third and most relevant reason is because it sort of contradicts the conservative principle that one's individual choices are the sole factor in determining whether or not someone will succeed in life.
One's individual choices are the most important factor in whether or not you will succeed in life based on what your definition of success is. Absolutely. And I'm not a conservative, but that is simply the way it is. It's called the success mindset. It was researched by Michelle Jelen at University of Pennsylvania. See, I cite sources, man. I actually cite sources. You're not.
This is the moral foundation of their worldview. I say sort of because a more reasonable conservative might argue that even if the odds are stacked against one group of people, you as an individual could still work hard enough to counter those odds and succeed despite that.
You can.
But they're not going to make that argument, though, because
what the holy hell was that? Like, listen, you're talking about you don't understand the conservative perspective and then you do crap like that? Whatever, dude.
And they'd leave themselves open to the criticism.
This guy would never dare debate me. I would rip this guy apart.
That even if it's possible to succeed despite injustice, you still shouldn't have injustice. Injustice is still bad. So it becomes necessary to pretend at the same time that this injustice does not exist, but even if it did, it wouldn't be that big a problem. Here's Ben Shapiro ruining my YouTube recommendations by destroying systemic racism.
Shouting institutional racism does not actually combat racism. You have to find individual instances and you have to show me who the racists are so that we can fight them together. I hate racism. I think it's evil. But if you're just going to say institutional racism every time something bad happens, there's no way to fight it. I need a policy that you're proposing, or I need a person who's actually racist so that we can fight it together.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Like, it is not enough to scream racism every single time you don't get what you want. Like be more specific about it.
Or we can determine whether the policy is good.
You can see the old switcheroo Ben is pulling here. You say that racism is not the result of a few individuals, but rather systemic problems, and he says, well, if these systems are truly racist, show me the racist individuals. The frame...
No, he didn't. No, that's not what he said. He said, show me the policy and what do you want instead. And this is what these people do all the time. They gaslight you into believing that something says what it does not say. That is absolutely not what he said. If you think that something should be changed, then come up with an effing plan. This is the same problem I have with conservatives over things like healthcare. Like, Carlin, we don't like Obamacare. We want to pull the government out of healthcare. And I'm like, okay, guess what? Pulling the government out of healthcare still requires a flipping plan to pull the government out of healthcare. It still requires a plan. If same thing is true here. If you want to declare that systemic racism is a thing that impacts absolutely everything, okay, come up with a plan, dude. What is the plan? What is the plan for rooting out the systemic racism? How is it going to work? Provide data to show it's going to work. Don't just come in and start burning down systems that have existed for hundreds of years when you don't have a plan to fix it.
Framing of the question makes systemic racism impossible to demonstrate by the dishonest rules he has established. In order to give him evidence he will accept, you have to pivot from systems to individuals. Otherwise, you're giving a cop-out answer. Generously, though, he'll also accept explicitly racist policies, but not the discriminatory...
What explicitly racist policies? What explicitly racist policies? Give an example. What racist policies?
...results of policies which are not explicitly racist.
What policies?
Racism has to be a choice that a person...
He's making stuff up. Like, there's no basis. If there were explicitly racist policies, he could just say them.
...person made, not the result of implicit or unconscious racism in systems or institutions. That's the only way to prove that racism is the result of implicit or unconscious racism in systems or institutions. So, for example, sentencing disparities between powder cocaine possession and crack...
Are people like this actually appealing to people on the left? Because honestly, like, this guy isn't even saying anything. Like, he's providing no... Like, there's no there. I just don't get it.
Crack cocaine possession can't be entered into evidence in Judge Shapiro's courtroom. The fact that the latter tends to fall more heavily on black Americans is irrelevant, because the law doesn't expressly state that black people receive longer sentences. That's just the result of the law.
And guess who's responsible for the First Step Act? Donald Trump. Donald Trump's still your president, man. He's still your president, and he's the only president in the past, 20 years who's actually implemented any major prison reform at all? Huh. What don't you like about Trump's First Step Act, dude?
It doesn't matter, you see, because in theory, if white people were to use crack as much as black people, which we don't, because statistically, white drug users can afford to splurge on fancy cocaines, we'd be sentenced the same way. So Ben is essentially saying here, prove to me this thing exists, but only using evidence which does not prove it exists. Oh, you can't do that? Guess
no, that's not actually what he says at all, and if you think that's what he says, you're not listening.
It doesn't exist. Checkmate, libs. Here's Steven Crowder with the slightly less piss-minded take that systemic racism and sexism existed in the past, but nowadays, everything is fine and dandy.
So again, let's compare this to...
So this is, before we even listen to Crowder, I just dropped I'm playing with a rock that I just dropped. I don't know if that showed up on the mic. So before we even get into this, is this a section where he's going to tell me that I am a poor, feeble, oppressed woman? I really hope it is. Please, please tell me I'm but a poor, feeble, oppressed woman, Thought Slime.
Two examples of actual institutionalized racism, like being prevented from voting, being forced to not being allowed to sit at the front of the bus. That was a big one. Yeah. Now, almost all of these movements today, if you contrast institutionalized racism, and if you look at that, by the way, they were won legislatively. Mm-hmm. They were won through education. Yeah. Whereas in this case, these modern day movements, these modern day movements are won by keeping people in the dark. Almost all, let's look through all of the major movements in recent memory. And the catalyst was something anecdotal. So as a matter of fact, there is zero evidence. Just like there is zero evidence that women are oppressed, and there is zero evidence of systemic, institutionalized discrimination and or racism. But rape culture now, people believe it. It's hedging your bets on failure. It's giving you an excuse for your poor behavior, for your failure, because you chalk it up to some discrimination that doesn't exist. That's the reason people use this right now.
I say that this take is less piss-minded because it allows for the possibility of systemic racism or sexism. It just denies that it's currently a thing.
Okay, since now we've waded into the sexism category, I'm going to say this. Between him and I am actually the one who should have an issue with sexism. If you think that it is easy for women like me to succeed in the world and not adhere to the traditional stereotypes that people think of as women, you are wrong. There are absolutely issues there. And yeah, I'll even go so far as to say mansplaining, 100% a real thing. It always happens in threes every single time. But if I do not succeed, that is because I have not figured out a way to. That is no one else's responsibility. I cannot control if men like this, and by the way, this guy would be like the very first person to mansplain to me. It's not, mansplain doesn't come from the right usually, it comes from people like this. That, every single time. Like, if I don't succeed, that is because I haven't figured it out yet. It doesn't mean I can't succeed. It doesn't mean I have some evil, oppressive, masculine force preventing me from succeeding. It simply means I haven't figured it out yet. If you don't have trials in life, if you don't have obstacles to get over, then why would success feel so good when you get there? The obstacles that we encounter on our way to success are just as important as the success itself.
Make no mistake, however, his mind, it is still pissy. He claims that white people are more likely to be arrested by the police than black people, which is A, demonstrably not true when accounting for the percentage of each type of person in the general population, and B, in the fictional world where it were true, that would be an example of systemic racism. It's worth noting, however, that in the real world, the world that you and I live in, there can't be systemic racism against white people because we're the system. The system in question.
Really? Because I have talked to a boat metric F-ton of companies who are right now telling me that they are not hiring white people. They will not hire white people in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter if the white person's the most qualified. They will not hire white people because of stuff like this. Now, do I think that this is going to be a long-term problem? No. Do I think that there are absolutely issues to talk about in regards to race in this country? Sure. And I've said that over and over and over again. But to tell me that people are not being racist against white people right now, that is patently untrue. There are major companies that are explicitly not hiring white people because they are white, because of nonsense like this.
Is us, white people. Crowder claims that past civil rights movements have been responses to specific injustices, but current civil rights movements are just whiny babies who want to feel like victims.
That is exactly what they are, because those whiny babies have no idea how good they have it compared to many, many, many other places in the world. They want to feel like victims. Absolutely.
And you can kind of see how this rhetoric lines up with Shapiro's, unless you can point to a specific, discrete instance of a problem.
You have yet to point to a specific, discrete instance of any policy. He has not pointed to one policy instance. But of course, that is only for conservatives to do.
You shouldn't complain. It's not worth analyzing or attempting to fix larger societal problems. Only specific instances of those problems as they crop up. To them, fighting racism is...
They never have a plan. They never have a plan. They just do diatribes like this. They never have a plan. They never have policies that they want to implement. Their only plan is burn it down.
It's a game of whack-a-mole, where racists pop up out of nowhere for no discernible reason, and you deal with them one by one. Forever. Acknowledging systemic racism compels you to do something about it. But pretending that racism is simply the actions of individuals means you can just sit back and say, well, we'll deal with it when it comes up on a case-by-case basis. Atomizing racism.
That's not the position of anyone. That is literally not the position of anyone. What the problem is here is that we have fundamentally different definitions of the term racism. Now, the dictionary definition has recently been changed to this little SJW definition that means that every white person is a racist. I do not subscribe to that definition. They do not subscribe to that definition. And he is glossing over the fact that he is changing the definition of racism to serve his purposes in this video to try to own conservatives.
In individual actions also has the added benefit that it makes it that much more difficult to establish a larger trend if you can present a reasonable sounding alternative explanation for individual actions. Think of it like this, okay? I'm trying to explain that the ice cream stealing club keeps stealing my dang ice cream. And my friend, Dave the conservative,
then why do you keep going to the ice cream stealing club? Go take your ice cream somewhere else.
Says, hey, you can't generalize the ice cream stealing club that way.
No, that's not what the conservative would say. The conservative would say, stop going to the ice cream stealing club, or bring a gun if you're going to go to the ice cream stealing club and pull it out if they try to steal your ice cream. But if you're going to go to the ice cream stealing club, why would you go to there and expect your ice cream not to get stolen? That's stupid.
Specific examples of people from the ice cream stealing club who stole your ice cream. So I say, okay, the treasurer of the ICSC, the PR manager of the ICSC, and the president of the ICSC all stole my scoops. My precious scoops. And Dave says, Well, the treasurer didn't have groceries that week, so he was probably hungry. The PR manager might have thought it was her ice cream, and the president claims they don't even like ice cream.
Dude, you literally just described socialism. You literally just described that, and you're ascribing that to a conservative? No, wealth redistribution is a conservative, is a fucking socialist principle. It is a socialist principle or communist principle. That is not what a conservative would offer. A conservative would say, if you don't want your ice cream stolen, don't go to the ice cream stealing club. Or bring a gun to the ice cream stealing club. That would be the answer of a conservative. And if you ever actually talk to a conservative, you would flippin' know that. This is why I don't do reaction videos.
So it's their word against yours. Seems to me like none of this has to do with the ice cream stealing club, but just a few bad apples. And yes, perhaps it is reasonable to think that any of these actions taken in isolation is unrelated to any sort of systematic ice cream theft. Each one of them could be a coincidence, but when you look at all of them together, it's pretty clear that there's a trend.
This is
a
the
trend
dumbest
that might
example
require
ever.
changes and new policies for the ice cream stealing clubs. Like perhaps they could be defunded or abolished. You can tell in
Yes, if you don't want your ice cream stolen, I think that abolishing or defunding the ice cream stealing club would be a good first step. That is a policy position. If you are anti-ice cream stealing, then defund the ice cream stealing club.
this metaphor, the ice cream stealing club is the police, and ice cream is human lives.
That is a horrible, horrible metaphor. That is, oh my god, dude. This is a sign of fundamentally someone who does not understand what he's talking about.
Anyway, you can watch this principle in action whenever
That was the worst possible metaphor I have ever heard in my life. What is wrong with you?
a black man is murdered by the police.
By the way, I've got this new fancy mic, and this is supposed to be the mic that I'm able to shout in. So we're definitely testing the shoutability of this mic in the making of this video. We're gonna see how it goes.
They must have been doing something wrong. He had a criminal record, or he must have reached for something that looked like a gun.
Dude, if you go to the ice cream stealing club, prepare to have your ice cream stolen. I don't know why this is such a ridiculous principle to understand.
Or he's probably on drugs. He did drugs probably one time. You see, there's a reasonable explanation for the hundreds of times this happens every day. It's not a structural problem. It's just hundreds of individual problems. The guy did drugs. If you do drugs, the police are supposed to kill you on sight. It's a police's job to shoot the criminals and kill them without a trial. And none of this even has to do with the conclusions that scholars make.
If this is what really appeals to leftists, y'all need to get a life. I mean, honestly, like, this is not even funny. This is not funny. Like, the only thing that's remotely appealing about this video is, like, the slime in the background. Like, that's kind of cool. But, like, the rest of this is, like, I don't get it. Like, and conservatives, why are you watching this crap? Why? Like, I've already wasted 14 minutes on this video. I actually gotta wrap it up because I interview in 15 minutes, but we're just gonna power through the rest of this reaction.
Based on critical race theory. This is just resistance to the way that they view the question itself. The answers tend to involve shit that they hate even more, like affirmative action, police reform, or just like not using the N-word. They like to use the N-word and they very much don't like
No. The only people that I ever hear even alluding to the N-word are people like this. I don't hear conservatives ever using the N-word. The conservatives don't even say the N-word. They don't even allude to the concept of it. The only people that I've done 2 reaction videos on my channel, this one and the one for Vosh. And in both of those videos, both of them alluded to the N-word in some way, shape, or form. People on the right don't do that. You guys are the ones that are doing that.
it when they cannot use the N-word. That maybe if some people have all of the shit and they have it for unfair reasons, we ought to take some of their shit and give it to people who have less shit for those same...
No, if you have stuff, it's because you worked for it. If they have stuff, it's because they worked for it. You don't get to come in and take my stuff. And yeah, I've got a gun in my house if you do try to come in and take my stuff, which is exactly what conservatives would say.
Unfair reasons. That maybe if some people got rich off of other people being oppressed, that the oppressed people should at least be entitled to some of the proceeds.
No.
Critical race theory critics.
No.
Critical race theory dislikers like to use the word divisive. This rhetoric is dividing us. It's pitting everyone against one another.
You're literally arguing that you should be able to come into my house and take my stuff, and you don't think that's divisive?
Right against left, black against white, hot dogs against hamburgers. This country is falling apart. But what do you think is the more
You are literally making a video making fun of half the country that you do not understand and obviously have never taken the time to even explore or have a conversation with them because you're accusing them of things that they never do, ever. And you're the one saying, oh, these silly conservatives, they just think this is all being divisive, but really we want to make it for everyone except people who don't think like you.
divisive message? That your problems are your own fault, and if things seem unfairly positioned against you, it must be because you, and people like you, personally suck. Or everything is fucked up real bad in a way that's still fixable, and if you try to see it from someone else's perspective, you'll understand that. Hey, speaking of inscrutable forces that have enormous malevolent influence over our lives but are invisible to most people, hello and welcome to the Eyeball Zone. Here in the Eyeball Zone, all small leftist projects are observed, none escape our notice. Hey, who wants to fetishize some dang commodities with me? Check out Left Merch Apparel to get all sorts of pinko clothes, bags, and stickers.
No.
Gonna
You
be
don't need to
honest,
plug your
we feel.
shit. No,
The fine
fuck
folks
that.
asking me for more makeup videos.
No.
Well, here's a
No.
You may
Is
now
this all the rest of this?
patreon.com/thoughtslime where you can give me money.
All
to
right,
make the
I guess that's the end of it. Dude, like, come on, guys. Like, I'll do a reaction video every once in a while, but you gotta give me good stuff to react to. I actually thought he was gonna say something, really anything of substance, and he said nothing of substance in the entire flipping video. Like, dude, come on, man. Give me something! I just spent 41 minutes reacting to this video, and I feel like I have just wasted 41 minutes of my life, but my coffee's almost empty, so I'm gonna go get a new pot. Listen, I don't do reaction videos all that often because YouTube drama just doesn't interest me at all, but every once in a while on a Saturday or something for fun, maybe I'll bust one out. So, I don't know. If you liked it, subscribe, share, like, all that crap. I'm gonna go read the news now and maybe actually do a serious video later. I'll see you soon.